I would like, for my third wish, a Splatoon IP expansion. Yeah, we're talking big. Look, Splatoon sells really freaking well, and they have a lot to play with this IP. It would actually be a shame if they kept on just doing, one game every 5 years. Like, that's fine, but we could do more with this. Specifically, I want Splatoon to have spin-off games. I feel like I manifested this a bit. Cool. Nintendo decided a random Tuesday was when they wanted to shadow drop a trailer for a Splatoon spin-off game, and while I will forever question this choice somewhat, I'm just kind of like, sure, why not? Drop this huge bombshell on us on a random Tuesday morning. Thanks, Nintendo! I guess? But with that being said, I really couldn't be happier about this announcement. Like I said back in December, I feel like if there was an IP that would be perfect for Nintendo to focus on expanding, it would be Splatoon. Given how well the series does, especially in Japan, Splatoon Raiders really was inevitable. I think, at least. So let's do what totally normal people do and go over all of this with a magnifying lens and discuss what the game could potentially be about. The trailer opens with Deep Cut flying over the ocean in a helicopter. The atmosphere is dreary, and we get a shot of a mysterious character who is acting as the pilot of the helicopter. Inside, Deep Cut discusses a rumor about the Spiralite Islands. Big Man mentions that they found a map in the basement, we're not really sure whose basement they found it in, and something about a news article. There's not a whole lot to divine from this image, other than they've circled what I can only assume is their destination. Cross-analyzing this image with the official map of the Splatoon world, we can get a rough estimate as to where the Spiralite Islands are in relation to where the other games play out. It appears this area of the map, the Spiralite Islands, would be slightly off this official map. If we assume this map is oriented with the top being north, then the Spiralite Islands are to the south. After that, the group spies a spiraling set of clouds with a glowing light as the focal point. Just as Shiver asks what the glowing light is, a beam shoots into the sky and the helicopter crashes. The next thing we see is that the crew has made some sort of rig that reminds me of the few times I ever got decent progress in the video game Raft. There's a crane, there's tires for some reason, and the entire thing seems to be made of mismatched wooden planks. Each Deep Cut member has fishing gear, which absolutely activates my silly little neurons, and then we finally get to see our protagonist. This character here has been called the Mechanic, according to the English translation, but I've been told that the Japanese player base is calling them Mecha. For this video, we'll call them the Mechanic. I think they look a lot like Shell from Portal personally. Just a little note. I thought it was really interesting. When I was looking at their design, I was like, this seems familiar for some reason. And then I saw someone else pointed out that they look so much like Shell, and I just thought it was really, really funny. Maybe it's a nod, I'm not really sure. Moving on though, there is an interesting contraption on Mechanic's back. They have some sort of paint, not flood from Super Mario Sunshine. They've got these little like canisters on the sides and, an ink tank. I've seen some people refer to this as flood or not flood, or this entire game just being Splatoon Sunshine. We'll see how that plays out. We see a little montage of Mechanic fishing with Deep Cut and inking Big Man. We also see some sort of robot-like contraption that resembles a submarine running alongside Mechanic across some sand dunes on the beach. This shape in the background here has my attention though. Does that look like it's shaped like a person to you? It kind of reminds me of Dogu, these figurines made in the Jomon period of Japan. Sorry if I botched the pronunciation of that. Only the arms of this figure are pretty distinctly upright, which most dogu are traditionally seen with downward turning arms, although I have seen a few that has like one that's a little bit more raised. I don't know if this statue signifies anything, but I thought it was interesting. It definitely has a distinct shape. A few of these figures appear in the background of the trailer in various parts of whatever this Florida-like island is. I didn't notice them until maybe the 5th watch of it, but they do appear to be scattered about this region. They are probably remnants of whoever used to live here, and I imagine whoever that was will probably come into play in the game's story at some point. The final shot is deep cut with Fry supporting Mechanic, looking out to a distant spiraling tornado with that glowing light from before within it. But what I think is interesting is this thing over here. My Zelda-pilled brain was really trying to turn it into the Forbidden Woods from Wind Waker because of the shape and coloration, but I can't really tell what it could be. It does look like a very large tree to me. The texture here on its sides makes me think it's wood and not rock, but I could be mistaken. I'm sure we'll get a better view of it in the later footage we get. And then we see the game's title drop, Splatoon Raiders. And this title, specifically the logo, hints at quite a bit. The game is called Splatoon Raiders because, well, frankly, that's Deep Cut's job. They make music, they do news, but when they're not doing that, as established in Splatoon 3's story, they're raiding wreckages and ruins for treasure. This game focuses on their attempts to get some sort of treasure from the Spiralite Islands, but obviously, things go wrong. The color palette for the logo is interesting because anyone who has played Splatoon 2 or 3 can easily tell you what these two colors signify. And honestly, given the things introduced in Splatoon 3, it only makes sense that the next single-player story would focus on the Salmonids. Splatoon 3 saw the inclusion of the Salmonid Kings and had a Salmonid character in the single-player mode, and well, we've already answered the question of who Mr. Grizz is at this point. The next big lore point is really the Salmonids, although there have been bits and pieces of hints scattered about the games for a while now. A lot of Splatoon enthusiasts have been really quick to point out this lore page from Splatoon 2 in particular, which reads, "When smoke rises from the Seven Rings, the pink fish will emerge from the sea, devouring all the creatures of the land." While there is clearly no spiral in this picture, the text does talk about smoke rising, and well, while tornadoes aren't smoke, they're certainly similar enough in appearance to make one question if this could be what the lore page is talking about. This old lore page also shows light coming down or potentially going up into the sky, no different than what we see here in the trailer. Basically, I think it's pretty safe to say the story will involve the Salmonids. Nintendo has not been too upfront with what kind of game this is going to be, but from what I can see, I do think it's going to showcase relatively normal Splatoon controls, just with added mechanics tailored towards a single-player experience. This robot here will probably have mechanics for salvaging and exploration. If I had to bet, our goal will be to find the treasure of the Spiralite Islands and survive whatever trials the islands have in store for us. The emphasis on showing off Deep Cut's fishing gear makes me think we are going fishing in some regard, and the way the water looks so clear here, coupled with this submarine-like robot, leads me to think we will do some sort of water traversal, which is fine, so long as we don't end up playing Subnautica. I don't think I could handle that mentally. Just the thought of going into the water and just seeing like the 3 Salmonid Kings, I think I'd cry and pee myself a lot. Regardless of what the game's focus will be, I hope that it's a blend of action and silly relaxation times. I could see that being the case with trying to salvage and build a rig to escape the Spiralite Islands while also taking the time to do survival-based things like fish up some food. Although, given that these characters are all aquatic in nature, would fishing up food be considered cannibalism? I'm sure it's fine. In hindsight, there is no doubt in my mind that Splatoon Raiders is the rumored Project Spiral that was leaked back in late 2024. I think when everyone heard this rumor, we were all convinced that it was Splatoon 4 for the Switch 2, and I really can't blame anyone for that. Splatoon 3 was allegedly receiving no further updates, and the Grand Fest was already over. With a new console around the horizon, it felt, frankly, quite obvious it would be another mainline Splatoon game. But honestly, I'm very pleased that it's not. While Splatoon 3 made choices that were choices, it felt like the game seemingly ended too soon. It had around 3 years of updates before they decided they were just kind of done with that, and that just didn't feel really great, honestly. The gap between Splatoon 2 and 3 was 5 years, and despite that, people were pretty skeptical that Splatoon 3 was even necessary at that point. So even with a new console having launched, I think a Splatoon 4 would be met with a lot of skepticism now. I also think that it's fine if they cook a bit on Splatoon 4 personally, because I imagine Splatoon 4 will be including things like the mouse controls for combat, and I think they're going to have to consider a lot before implementing that into gameplay. A Splatoon spinoff feels perfect for the interim, but frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if this game was developed in a way that was similar to Tears of the Kingdom, where it was intended as DLC before it just became too big to be considered that. This being some sort of Wave 3 DLC for Splat 3 would have made a lot of sense. But I can't help but wonder if the scope just became too big for that. And so now it's a Switch 2 title. There's been no confirmation on that being the case, of course, but I could easily see that being true. We'll see if any development stories come out about it. Splatoon Raiders easily skyrocketed to the top of my most anticipated Nintendo games of the year. I made a whole video about how much I love Splatoon, and Splat 3 was easily my most played game during the Nintendo Switch era. I'm really excited that Nintendo is giving it a chance to expand past just the mainline games. Thank you for watching today's video. If you are not subscribed or didn't see yet, I made a very big announcement the other day in the community tab about how I plan to restructure the channel in the near future. I plan to talk about that a bit more in a future update video and go over the why and what things will look like moving forward. I encourage you to read that post if you haven't already, but also stay tuned for an update video about that. Thank you again, hit the like button if you liked the video, and let me know in the comments if you are also hyped for Splatoon Raiders. I will see you very soon. Take care, and yeah, just have a good day.